We're all trying to make better decisions, but what if the secret isn't about getting more information, but about finding a better way to think? Well, today we're diving into this really fascinating project from Steve of SteveBizBlog. He did exactly that. He built himself a personal advisory board of history's greatest philosophers, and he powered the whole thing with AI.
And this quote right here, this is the heart of the whole thing. I mean, think about it. We are just drowning in data, in opinions, in noise. But the real bottleneck to making a good call is usually what's happening right between our own ears. Steve realized most advice is just reactive and, well, kind of shallow. He wanted to go deeper. So the big question is, how do you actually do that? How do you get access to frameworks for thinking that have been stress-tested for centuries? This whole explainer is really the story of one person's amazing quest to answer that exact question.
Now, what's really cool is where this whole thing started. It wasn't some big tech project or academic exercise. Nope. It all began with a simple, everyday family disagreement. A situation I'm sure we've all found ourselves in.
So, instead of jumping in and playing referee or picking a side, Steve had a different idea. He wanted to understand the machinery of the disagreement. What were the hidden assumptions everyone was working with? That desire to analyze the conflict instead of just reacting to it, that was the tiny spark that lit this whole fire.
And that question led him away from just asking for advice and straight towards the great philosophers. Now, why philosophers? Well, it's pretty simple. They don't just give you opinions. They give you entire frameworks, brand new lenses for seeing a problem you thought you understood.
So the first step wasn't about firing up an AI at all. It was about disciplined, old-fashioned research. For every single thinker, he documented their core ideas, their main lens on the world. And honestly, you can't overstate how important this is. You know the old saying, garbage in, garbage out? The AI is only as smart as its source material, and this high-quality research became the foundation for everything. So, with all that research done, it was time to assemble the board. Steve brought together this really diverse group of thinkers, and each one represents a totally unique way of looking at the world. It's like a toolkit for fighting your own blind spots. First up, you've got the classics. Socrates, he's your personal interrogator, always asking, but why do you believe that's true? He's there to expose all your hidden assumptions. Then there's Plato, who's always pushing you to ask, am I reacting to reality or just the shadows on the wall? Aristotle brings that practical wisdom, helping you find the balanced, virtuous path. And Descartes, he's your first principles guy, making you strip everything away until you find what you know for absolute certain. Next, we have a group that's not afraid to dive into the messy side of human nature. Spinoza wants you to analyze the causes of your feelings, not just be a victim of them. Schopenhauer is that voice in your head pointing out how often our own desires are the actual source of our pain. Nietzsche is the ultimate coach, asking if this problem is actually an opportunity to become stronger. And then there's Machiavelli, who just cuts right to the chase and asks, okay, who has the power here and what does everyone really want?
And finally, the Stoics. Talk about a powerhouse team for building resilience. Epictetus gives you the ultimate decision-making filter. Can I control this or not? Simple, but so powerful. Seneca is there to help you see how much of your anxiety is just based on fears of a future that hasn't happened. And then Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, keeps you focused on your duty, on doing the right thing, especially when the pressure's on. Okay, so you've done all this incredible research on 11 of history's greatest minds. The question is, how do you turn all that static knowledge into a living, breathing tool you can actually use every day? Well, the process itself is way more straightforward than you might think. First, all those detailed profiles got compiled into one master document. Second, that document got uploaded to basically become the AI's brain, its high-quality source of truth. And finally, some custom instructions were written to tell the AI, okay, now act as this board and have each philosopher weigh in from their specific point of view. And let's be really, really clear about this. This is not a gimmick. It's not about asking a chatbot to just pretend to be Plato for fun. It's a serious, structured system for perspective taking. It's about systematically forcing your brain to look at a single problem from 11 radically different angles. All right, so theory is one thing, but what does this actually look like day to day? How does this go from being a cool idea to a genuinely useful tool for making better decisions? The workflow is designed to be super simple, almost frictionless. Whenever a problem comes up, Steve just grabs his phone, uses speech to text, and captures his raw, unfiltered thoughts about it. He sends that off to his advisory board, and then he gets to just reflect, as Socrates, Nietzsche, and the others all offer their take. It's brilliant because it forces you to slow down and really think. And the payoff here? It's huge. This process just naturally exposes your own hidden biases. It helps you untangle a fleeting emotional reaction from a deeply held principle. And maybe most importantly, the goal isn't to get all the philosophers to agree. The real gold is in their disagreement. That's where the insight is.
What's more, this isn't just a static report, it's a real conversation. If Machiavelli says something that really hits home, you can ask him follow-up questions. You can challenge a response, or ask a philosopher to go deeper. It becomes a true exploration of an idea.
And this brings us to what might be the biggest takeaway of this whole project. It's a really powerful statement about what the role of technology should be in our lives. You see, there are really two ways to look at AI. On one hand, you can see it as a replacement, something to just give you the answer so you don't have to do the work. But this project sees AI as a tool for reflection. It doesn't do the thinking for you. It makes your thinking better by giving you powerful new perspectives. And that, right there, is the end game. It's not about finding the one right answer. It's not about being certain. It's about the practice of getting better at judgment, day by day, decision by decision. It's about turning your experiences into actual wisdom. So in the end, this whole thing is a system for learning how to think, not being told what to think. It's about building your own mental agility, your own wisdom, just with a little help from some of the greatest minds who ever lived. Which kind of leaves us with one final question to think about. If you could build your own personal advisory board, pulling from anyone in history, a thinker, a scientist, an artist, a leader, whose wisdom would you want to have on call?